Hello, I am Prince from MediaSFU, and today I'm gonna provide you with a very quick and direct tutorial on how to start off with a fresh or new or even an existing MediaSFU account and proceed to get your voice telephony agents working in as little as 20 to 30 minutes max. So although this by one showing you what you need to do in your MediaSFU dashboard to ensure your calls work, and then two, we'll take a look at the SIP number provider. You surely would have gotten this from a popular tracking service, maybe Tonix, Zadama, Shilo, and the like. You want to make sure you configure both sides, that's your tracking service side and MediaSFU side, to communicate without any friction. And the very last part will be on the orchestration of your agents. The typical agents follow steps, either your speech, going through some model and coming back as a speech, or in the classic way, you do some transcription, which is your speech to text, go through some LLM, like the GPT or Claude, and then get a sound playback, which is your text to speech. So we would want to make sure you know how to choose any of the providers, an easy plug and play, and then provide us with the API key, which they will require to make sure all these steps work. So to get started, if you don't have an account on MediaSFU already, you can just one, go through the login side. If you would ever want to proceed with the social options, as in go through Google or go through the GitHub, which you can just proceed, select an account to proceed, or preferably, if you would want to sign in with sign up with an email account, you would probably go through the staff side or go through the sign up link. So I'll be using the sign up option via email for this demo. On the sign up page, I'll proceed to um, create an account. This time around, I'll be using that name, um, the last name of MediaSFU, and a username. Oh, I'm gonna use this name one. And for email address is going to be that name one sheet at mediasfu.com. And on the phone number, I'm gonna use 579916822. So now I just need to pick up my password, and I am going to make sure you have a strong combination of numeric and then special characters. And I'll just hit the sign up key from, from here. Okay, so um, if you were to sign up using any of the social login sign up approaches, whether Google or GitHub, you probably won't meet the screen to verify your email. But then for email, you're gonna have this interface from which you just have to click the option to get the verification code, and you should have an email sent to your account with an expiry of this code. So I'll just grab that code and then verify my account right away. So I have this as 729081. Okay, so upon signing, uh, logging in directly to your dashboard, On a higher level, you are welcome with an overview, profile, rooms, balance, and a couple of tabs of particular interest is one. Your overview, it kind of gives you a high summary. I'll just try to be very brief on um, the tabs in here and just focus on what you absolutely need. One very point, the key point of interest is that if you have a couple of minutes assigned to you, so without even making any minutes purchase or any payment info, you can just get started to work with your sandbox at this stage as recommended. So we'll focus on a couple of key areas. One will be your API keys section. The next one is going to be your event settings part. And the very last two ones will be on your AI credentials, or how we orchestrate your calls, so these models, your speech to text, LLM, and then your text to speech. And finally, your SIP configuration, how MediaSFU talks to your SIP banking number provider. So, what I want to do, let's just take a look at uh, what you have. And also on your profile, if you would ever want to have um, MediaSFU's call center solution or enterprise level telephony solution, in which you just your number, you configure this, and then go to telephony.mediasfu.com, from which you can handle your incoming calls and make an outbound call and efficiently control your sub users, call handlers in an optimal way. You probably want to turn on this telephony support to show. And in that case, you're going to have your call logs also logged in the dashboard. So the very first key thing we need to do is to enable SIP support. And this is highly encouraged for the cases of a telephony system creating your room. Think of someone calling your line, and then your rooms are auto created for you without you having to initiate that request. So uh, readers, if you would want to know if you want that to happen and you would like to change at least this support SIP, aside many other options you change here, your first line of action is in your event settings. Edit the settings and change support SIP to. The other angle is which direction you would want SIP to be supported. Do you want it to be just inbound, outbound, or in both directions? I'm going to leave this in both directions for now, but then if you know you're just going to be making only outbound calls, you're calling people without receiving calls, you won't want to change that accordingly. So once I change this to support SIP, I'm going to do save changes, and I just need to confirm this. And my first task is completed, saving my event settings to have SIP support. Now, the very next thing you would want to take a look at is your API keys. You don't particularly need to do anything here, but then I'm just trying to explain to you what each key does. So there's a demo API key. MediaSFU never expects you to use this. It doesn't. You use this in any other way than internally creating demo rooms for you. So it's kind of pointless or useless in using it in your requests to MediaSFU. The other two options are the sandbox key and the production key. The production key, MediaSFU restricts them to domains that you register. If you look at the domain tab, you can register your domains from which you would want to use your production keys. So your API keys are only restricted for production to the domains you specify. And the last option is a sandbox key, which kind of works from anywhere. It's by default, what you would use in MediaSFU sandbox environment, which is our equivalence of Postman. I'll get to that briefly. But you have an option to control this as you wish. For example, you would like to copy this if you want to show your key. You have your key there. If you probably want to edit this at any point in time, if you would want to um, maybe set it as inactive briefly so that it doesn't get used, you can just toggle this. If you want to change the key, you can just regenerate this and you're going to have a new key. And for whatever changes you make, you finally have to hit save changes for it to reflect. I'll just cancel this to end this illustration. So one, you use the sandbox key, unless of course you have a subscription to use a production key. Just stick to sandbox key so far in this demo. Another points of interest that will be particularly of use to people are things like your recording settings, and then your settings. If you probably want to indicate where your recordings go in terms of if you just hit create new factor authentication, um, recordings for notifications, and specifically where your recordings get stored. It's the AWS, Wasabi, DigitalOcean, and the like. So for every single settings option on the dashboard that I haven't touched on or I haven't expanded on, if you go to your docs, there are two endpoints which are technically for one, uh, the developer guide, which is your high-end documentation of making first media SFU via HTTP and the like. Then the other endpoint is your user guide. So user guide is kind of a low code, no code, just guiding you on how to make such changes on your dashboard. So for example, I was just talking about settings. If you happen to go to the settings end and you're not so sure of how to configure your storage, you take a look at, say, your S3 configuration. You have a couple of images, guides in there to show you this, to show you how you can do this. So uh, from your doc side, user guide guides you on almost everything on your dashboard that you want to change or you want to modify. And your developer guide takes you to kind of a technical endpoint on how to mostly communicate with MediaSFU via HTTP and what various parameters mean. Now, if we head back to our dashboard, um, a very core critical part is rooms. Um, it's at the core of everything regarding your agents, telephony in the running rooms. You probably would want a quick check as to whether everything is working or running. And particularly in your room's dashboard, um, there is an option to be in the mode or sandbox mode or production mode. For a quick brief check, as I illustrated, you have enough minutes to run this for sandbox, and production needs special subscription stuff. So for getting sandbox mode, as a quick demo, if for instance, um, we do the option of creating a room. I'm just gonna create a sample room as a demo. If you hit the create room endpoint, I'm gonna skip this and start a new meeting. What you mostly need is just your display name, the name to display in your meeting room. And I'm gonna use a name of say test name, tester, just as a demo. And I can just proceed to, you have a couple of options you would probably want to configure. I'm just gonna proceed with confirm, and you should have a meeting created for you that you can scan if you're using any of MediaSFU's SDK, or just proceed with click here to get to the endpoint. So if I hit click here, it takes me to MediaSFU room from which uh, you can use your regular mic camera and any other control things you will need. So for example, I have my camera on. I'm having something of such display. Now, if I'm to go back to my dashboard, you're gonna see the call live in there. So if I go here and I go to my dashboard in the new tab, just briefly, you are going to get the live call ongoing being logged here. If you want to control things like end event and the like, you can just do from here. The call logs, SIM auditors with joining passcode for the host, and almost everything you will need. So this is a quick just demo of just room creation, just as a test to make sure everything works for you. I'm just gonna go to the meeting side and then end the event. So this is going to end this event, then go back to my dashboard. So now this is of limited usage for your telephoning or for you're building your custom application. You probably surely want to know how to do this via MediaSFU's API, and your docs on creating a room, which is central to your application, is um, on our your docs, your developer guide. If you hit developer endpoint, you have one for your room creation and joining room docs. Um, for probably 99% of users, this is all you ever need to do because they cover your HTTP requests requirements and how to follow the logic. Many other things regarding media connection, media production are kind of low level implementation. So if you probably have an experience with something like MediaSoup, you would want to do something like this. But if you are using any of MediaSFU SDKs, then this is all handled by the SDK. You just have to know how to use the SDK. So if you want guide on that, developers, you go to Kickstart tutorial. You have something on the usage of MediaSFU's SDKs. If you want something more, probably about 2 to 3 hours of practice with videos, then you can go to MediaSFU's sample project, which we call Spaces Tech. It just shows you how to use MediaSFU's SDK in a kind of no view mode and then like a high view mode. So if you go to developers and then you go to AI agents app, that also gives you a view of using MediaSFU's SDKs. Essentially, it's all about how do I render MediaSFU's UI with some kind of display or without some kind of display. So that's a very good point. Another great point is MediaSFU's specific project. So if I hit um, GitHub, MediaSFU, and you go to the Spaces Tech project, it's an orchestration of initial, final, and advanced. You're going to have all resources you ever need, particularly you want to care about how to take a look at MediaSFU React.js, for example, um, how you control your mic, you start control your mic, how you control your camera, and then how you render the audio or the video elements in your project. So At a high level, this is just a software reference to people who are using MediaSFU SDK uh, at a point of level. In your telephony application, you might never encounter this. That is, if your application is solely based on a SIP caller or somebody putting into your system in your AI agents, MediaSFU adds your AI agents to the meeting room. So never have to worry about how to join the room. If you are building something custom on that, if you have a different UI, you probably would want to know if the human needs to join. How does the human get connected? The simple, easiest case is probably to embed an iframe. So if you go to an iframe embedding, there is a guide on how to just put your API key and API username, how to create a room or how to join an existing room, and then use MediaSFU's UI that you just saw. It's unbranded, and then probably maybe nice as a small view in your custom application. So briefly, as a high-level summary, you probably never need to use MediaSFU SDKs if you are solely building telephony agents that will never get humans involved in the flow. If you are doing telephony agents that involves kind of human interaction, then at a high level, you probably would want to use media surface iframe, which is just quick, fast to get started. And then if you're doing something much more advanced, you're building really like a VoIP app or mobile, Flutter, React Native, and the like, you probably want to use MediaSFU's SDK and know how to use that in the background in your app. And very good projects are Spaces Tech project with video guide on it. And on the side, you have the the agent apps, agent apps, which kind of shows MediaSFU example of using MediaSFU's SDK. And just as a clear note, it's nothing to do with telephony. Now we have seen how to create a room via our dashboard. We are going to just see how to do the same thing via HTTP, as in the sandbox. So if you go to the sandbox endpoint of MediaSFU, and just for a bit of familiarization, um, for all requests you could send to MediaSFU via HTTP, everything is captured in the sandboxes listed here. The only exception is those specifically related to controllistic calls, which you get from the telephony endpoint. If I go to the save telephony engine and I go to the specific side on SIP call API, all my SIP control related stuff are listed in here. Other than that, every single thing we need to talk about in terms of HTTP requests supported by MediaSFU are covered in the sandbox. Now, the sandbox is just our version of what you probably call Postman. You could use this in combination with the documentation, sorry, the, the developer guide specifically. You could use this in combination with the documentation to know how to formulate some of these requests. So if you start from the documentation side, every single documentation has a sandbox which you can run from, or you can just go directly to a sandbox endpoint which has every the sandbox in here. So you're going to start off with the room creation as an example, and in here I'll head to the room sandbox. So the typical flow is you have a path to modify the parameters and a path to see sample request. Then finally, testing the API interactively. So in where you have the option to modify the parameters, if you come here, for example, by default, the key areas of interest are the output, the outputs for you, and the sample request. So we have this generated in Node.js, Ocel, and then Dart, and you can just copy this and run this for whatever platform you're running on. So how does this flow work? Uh, I'm gonna just say make a change from create to a get request. Once I make a change, it changes whatever I need to add up to a get request. If, for example, I change to say a delete request, it's going to change what parameters I need. And going back to say get, for example, if I change whatever I need to change or provide what I need to provide, and I hit submit, you're going to have a change in the output, just indicating all you need to have in your request payload. So for this, for example, if you need to run this, you're just going to copy this and um, go to your one, just a quick one. You're going to realize that whenever you hit submit, your sample request gets updated. So this now changes to just a replica of this, but for Node.js, for Cal, and then for that. So whenever you hit submit and you have a change in output, you could have ready to use parameters, which still you could just change it or have your flow to dynamically modify what needs to be modified for easy run. So if we head to the test API part, so for us, we are logged in. Also, you have an option to log in to run. You have an option of specifying your API username. This is just my username, and that's going to be your account's username and your API key. Like I described earlier, this is going to be your sandbox key. That's the only key that's going to work in MediaSFU's environment. And all you need to do is to paste the payload you've copied from that site and then submit and run. So that's just a quick view of how to use MediaSFU Sandbox. So let's just try this for a room creation and see how this goes. So I'm going to change this from get room to a create room, and I'll uncheck the plethora of options you can give, but I'm going to turn off the meeting room params and then the recording params. Most of these defaults to values you have in your dashboard. And even if you don't have anything in the dashboard, MediaSFU's defaults. And the key ones you absolutely need to check are, okay, do I need BCMA if I'm probably operating outside North America and doing SIP calls? You surely need that. Direction of SIP. If SIP call is running, we need to capture the flow of whoever is talking. So at least you need an audio buffer to be captured, or if you want to be safe, and then surely the buffer needs to be captured for telephony agents to run. So when you're using an AI, so you have stuff like this, which you could just easily modify and see how it goes. I'm just gonna change my username here and to something as a test. And sometimes the sandbox can be overly restrictive due to checks. You can still just type in whatever values you want in here and run. For example, I want to use the username test name. I'm not getting the ability to get rid of the US there. I'm just gonna modify this first and go back to clear this. Or I'll just let me see tester and I'll just hit submit now, and I'm having the payload. If I copy this and I go to my request parameters, I can still make a change here for whatever I was being restricted on. So for example, I want to make the use of the name test name. Um, test name. And now all I need to do is provide my API username, which is test name one. If you're not sure of this, if you go to your dashboard, that is going to be your username update. Then I'm gonna grab my API key. For this case, it's going to be my sandbox key. I'm just gonna head in here and then grab my uh, my sandbox API key. So back to my sandbox, I'm gonna paste this here and I'll submit and run. So just as a first demo, I'm gonna just probably use some dummy name and to show the flow of the response. So if I do submit and run, in this case, it comes up as invalid credentials from the response data, and you get a status code as 401. Just an indication of how that works. If I'm to correct this and properly run it, get rid of this. Then um, I do submit and run. I have a response from MediaSFU which says my room is successfully created. Now, at a higher level, you have a public URL, which is a link you can just copy and paste in your browser. I'm going to do that just now as a demo. And if you're probably doing an iframe embedding, this just comes for you to embed. If you are communicating with MediaSFU's SDK, it kind of takes care of all of this. Just give it your API key and username, and then just creates the room and then do the joining for you. If you're building from scratch and you need to establish separate connection to MediaSFU, then you have things like the link, the endpoint that your list is running from, the secrets, and the secure code. So particularly for the host to make sure they control the room and your room name, which is very key. So you take a look at the public URL, it's just a combination of your room name and your secrets. And that goes for join request as well. Just probably the public URL link secrets without a secure code, but or the relevant parts are returned. So that's a quick demo. I'm just gonna grab the link now and paste in my browser. So if I go to I paste this and I hit enter, it takes me to my meeting environment, as you can see currently. Now, if you see the participants currently, it's just me as in the test name. Um, there's nobody else in here. So if you probably want to join this, which I'll illustrate with I am maybe making a call request. I do know the meeting room, just go back to the sandbox. I know the room name is SME is this. I'm gonna grab this and then go up here and then change from a create request to a join request. And I need the meeting ID. So and then the name to join, I'm gonna use uh, tester join. So when I do submit, it's going to give me the payload. Now this time around, I'm not gonna run it in the sandbox. I'm just going to do a call request as a demo. So this is the populated cell I need. I'm gonna just copy this and go to VS Code Online. And in here, I'm gonna put a new text file, which I'm gonna paste this. And for MediaSFU's authorization bearer flow, you realize it has a dummy of APIs and it is to colon API key. So it expects your API username and API key provided. All you need to change in all of the code samples format is replace your API username and your API key. So going back to my dashboard, I'm gonna copy my sandbox key again, and then in here, I'm gonna replace my API key with that. Then my API username is just going to be my account name, test name one. Okay, so with this, I can make a request to MediaSFU to join the room. Okay, so let's just take a look at how we run this. So in the git bash, I'm gonna paste this in there and then just hit enter. And we have a response. Let me just zoom in. We have a response from MediaSFU, particularly in same format, this, the room name, success, and then most particularly the link to join the meeting. So I'm gonna grab this public URL, copy this, and then I'll go to my tab again and paste this in there. Sorry, I probably didn't catch all the link. Let me just go back to my VS Code again. So once I grab the correct link and paste back in my URL, I go to the meeting interface. Now if I check on this, I have the host who is in there, test chain. Probably just gonna change the displays to show everyone. So display, show participants. And when I save, I'm gonna see that there is myself and then the host, which is the test name. So um, for example, on this title, I'm just gonna change the display to show all participants, and you're gonna see yourself as the host and the other participants. So from here, you can just, as demonstrated, do the controls, um, start your mic, and it will just follow accordingly. So that just demonstrates how you want uh, make a request to MediaSFU to join or create a room via the sandbox or programmatically, like we've already seen the dashboard, or programmatically making a call or other forms of request. So I'm just end this to conclude the demonstration of the sandbox. So I'm just going to end this room. So proceeding with our all things we need to do in our dashboard, we've seen how to use MediaSFU API and Sandbox. Now, let's continue to key points on the AI credentials and our SIP configuration, how we connect to our SIP tracking number aside our AI orchestration, how do we do our speech to text and the like. So if we go to our AI credentials side, um, you have an option of specifying the various providers to use. Now, if you are so not sure of um, which provider to select and the like and how efficient the working with SFU, you can go to uh, one of three options. I'm just gonna hop there quickly before coming back here. So the very first one is agents dot quickly zoom agents.mediasfu.com. You probably have a link so from the demo side. On agents.mediasfu.com, you have MediaSFU's this sample implementation of agents. Now, just keep in mind, these are not agents that run in your meeting room. Typically, you have for telephony, the agents in the meeting room, you see the agent as one of the participants, and they respond to the SIP caller or SIP calling. You also have agents that run outside the meeting room, and they're particularly for interest to people doing things that would concern everyone. Think of transcription, think of maybe sentiment analysis or kind of posture or gesture detection. So MediaSFU has telephone agents that run in your meeting room that's produced to the room, and then you have your regular agents that run completely outside the meeting room. So this is an example, but the orchestration and flow is kind of the same. So uh, maybe this is not a bit optimized, but it's up to you to kind of play around with which providers to use and see how they perform in the MediaSFU context. So there are three endpoints: the default agents.mediasfu.com, which is displayed now. Then there is the advanced endpoints, where you can get to change some of the providers using MediaSFU's own UI key. So, so this is kind of limited options because we are not providing key for almost providers, but at least it gives you a couple of options to try right out without providing an API key, whether to use DeepGram, AI Whisper, Assembly AI, and the like. Uh, you can think of LLMs as well, couple in there, as well as the text to speech models. Your ultimate endpoint side is the playground. So if you go to MediaSFU's playground, um, this has the option for you to play around with almost all of our supported providers. So you have all these options in here, the voice, LLM, all these options, as well as the text to speech, all these options. All you need to do in most cases is to hit the config, and then you just need your API key um, to send to the provider. You could probably maybe play around with specific language or model, then with the LLMs, for example. Aside that, all you need is giving your flow. For example, you want to just focus on voice as an example, and then maybe you just want to optimize the transcription part to see what's your fastest option. So instead of full conversation, you go to transcription only, and then from transcription only, you just need to give us the key for your speech to text. And you just run that for some time and see how that turns out. If you want to switch to full conversation, then with an LLM, and then back to speech if you want to, you still have an option to say, okay, I'm going to stop at the LLM side. I know my transcription is fast. Now, what are they now in terms of the LLM? So probably just text only, so that doesn't do any speech output. Then finally, you can just change to your final full, which is written speech. So that kind of gives you a nice interactive playground to play around with. At the end of the day, it's your design to pick a trade-off of speed and stencil, and as well as nice accurate responses. But MediaSFU just orchestrates a real-time fast media flow to make sure that happens effortlessly. Okay, so let's just switch side to the dashboard. And on the dashboard, like we've seen in the demo for the agents playground, um, MediaSFU just needs your AI credentials, uh, AI API key. Still, you could modify a couple of things, but then let's proceed with just say creating new credentials. Um, you can do this both sides on the sandbox and on the dashboard. I'm gonna do one on this, two in the dashboard, and then one on the sandbox, just as a demonstration. So the quick fill without expanding the quick fill options, mostly you just need your API key. Most options providers don't need your auth token, and then you just pick any nickname you want. This is case sensitive, but then just go with nickname that you would probably easily remember, and then use. Another very key one is the type. Now, this can default to vision or voice. Like I mentioned, the agents not limited to telephony, so you can have probably vision or multimodal agents. And MediaSFU telephony, if you're using it for telephony, you make sure you always default this to voice, else it's not going to be able to pick it up and your flow will be uh, dysfunctional. So let's just quickly start with, first I'm going to start with my Um, let's just start with the LLM for now. Or for example, if I switch to text text to speech, you're gonna realize you have options of Google and then almost everything you ever need listed in there for you. And if you do quick fill, it's gonna fill that section. So uh, same with something like speech to text is gonna change to those providers if you click those options. Okay, so now let's start with LLM. So LLM, um, I'm gonna go with ChatGPT, and to go with that, I'll just hit the quick fill defaults. When I hit the quick fill default, it kind of populates most of the things I'll need. You can still go on to edit a couple of things from here. Maybe have like a fine-tuned model. For example, something specific to your field, or mechanics or roofing or something. You want to change this and to change, or as this idea, what you can particularly not change here is your service key. So the service keys are identified for different providers, and you would want anything related to using ChatGPT or OpenAI as that in terms of LLM. So you can change around this stuff, and these are things we've tested to work. Of course, you can go with a lot of max tokens and your temperature change. So here, the only thing I need is my API key from ChatGPT, and I'm gonna pick the nickname to conclude it. So I'm gonna head here, and I'm just having a disposable API key for now. So I grab this. Just gonna head back to my dashboard and then paste that here. And then nickname, I'm gonna say um, test, test LLM uh, in AI. Like I mentioned, this is case sensitive, so you just want to make sure you're getting it all right when you're referring to it. So now I'm just gonna do save, um, sorry, create, and I will just need to confirm I need to create this. Okay, so I have my LLM configured. And the next one I need is my speech to text and my text to speech. So if I proceed to uh, now, I'm just gonna switch to the sandbox as an illustration of that as well, like I mentioned. So I'm gonna go to the sandbox, and this time around, I want to go to the AI credentials sandbox. In my AI credentials sandbox, I want to quickly just go to modify parameters. It pre-generates some payload. Uh, but this time around, I want to just change everything before I go there. So I'll be using DeepGram for my speech to text and text to speech. So let's go with uh, disposable DeepGram API key here. And so in my sandbox, all I need to indicate is my API key. Sorry, I'm going to go with the show quick fill options. Just quickly get that for this time around. I'm going to do speech to text first. And then I want DeepGram. Of course, you can use other options. I'm going to focus on DeepGram and just select apply configuration. And in here, everything is here as I want. If I want a language change also, I can just modify from here. The key is make sure the type is voice for your telephony agent. And if you are creating for a sub user, MediaSFU has kind of sub user system addition to a user. You can see that on the dashboard. Just indicate that yeah, this I'm creating for my main account. So I'm just gonna leave that. Then I'm gonna paste my API key here. Then I'm gonna paste. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pick a nickname. I'm gonna say test. This is test, and then I'm sure this is the text to speech. So I'm gonna say test. I'm gonna change to the programs, the program also, also this is text, and this is speech to text. Okay, so this is the nickname I've picked. So first, it's not conflicting with another nickname you have. That's good to go. So I have this now. If I hit submit, um, I should have the details I need in here. So I'm just gonna copy this, and just as demonstrated earlier, I'll go to my API, and then I'm gonna paste the JSON in there, and I'll just need my API key and an API username. So go back to dashboard, probably um, open my API keys in a new tab. Just open here, and then just grab this, and back to the sandbox. We'll proceed with pasting that here. And my API username is just check to be sure. Okay, then all I need to do is to submit and run. So I do submit and run, and I check my response. I'll have confirmation that it's actually created. 201 for created, and then I have the details in there. Okay, so that's just a demonstration of how to use MediaSFU's HTTP endpoint to programmatically create, get, update, and all other supported uh, changes for your AI credential. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and in here, if I go back to the AI credentials side, you would realize I have two now, one for speech to text and then one for uh, my LLM. Now the very last one is a text to speech, playing sound back to the caller. So this I'm gonna just do on the dashboard, as we've seen from both sides already. So I just need my API key. Yeah, so using Bigcom. So yeah, I'm gonna go to just create new, and then from here, I just all I need is one my API key and a nickname. So nickname, um, I'm gonna go with. Sorry, I still need to pick up Deepgram. So I have to go to text to speech option, and then I need to use the Deepgram option. Okay, so I'm gonna pick fill the Deepgram, and like I mentioned, it's up to you to change the model to any kind of voice and sound you want. The rest you'll probably just recommend you leave it as such. And type, just always make sure this is voice. Then, um, I mean, for telephony, and the case that we need to be able to resolve it. For your vision or multimodal, anything outside telephony, it's fine, whatever you specify. So for the nickname, this is just going to be something I pick up. I'll just say um, Dipcom, Dipcom test speech. Sorry, this is the text to speech, TTS. Okay, so the only thing I need to do next is to just submit this, hit the create button, and I'll have to just confirm this. So essentially, I have three credentials now. One for my text to speech, one for my speech to text, and one for my LLM. You could add more. Could have numerous credentials. Uh, I think a max of 20 or 50 thereabouts. At the end of the day, you just make sure when you get to our SIP configuration side, you indicate the ones you want to use specific number, which you could have numerous numbers. Else, MediaSFU just default to reading one of these. As usual, all of this you can easily control. The status, you probably want to temporarily turn off something, then to inactive, and MediaSFU is never going to make use of it for running a request. So That completes second major part of the illustration. The very last one will be on the SIP tracking number provider. How do we connect that to MediaSFU and connect MediaSFU to that? And how do we indicate this? We have in here in the SIP tracking config to make our model just run. Now, if we proceed to taking a look at our AI, our SIP configuration, how we connect with our tracking number, um, I'm just going to quickly expand on create new here and just highlight a couple of critical things before switching to the page that documents SIP configuration. So a very critical part is your contact number. Which you need to specify an A194 format, something with your country code, maybe like +1 for North America or +44 for UK in that pattern. So just probably just put a dummy, say +1, I don't know, 587, 660, 2344. So that's a critical thing you need in here. Everything in here, if you're not sure, you can just leave as it is. For sure, if you're not in North America, you can just change to a PCMA codec so that you can support your telephones at that side of the world. You could want to record SIP, something you want to indicate as well. SIP only mode, I've already touched on the fact that everything runs in the meeting room. If you don't want the human ever joining the call, you want to switch to SIP only mode. And even for days, if you want to override this, or if you follow the documentation in rooms, you'll see how to still force join a room with SIP only mode with some secure secrets. So aside the basic routing information, which isn't that much difficult, you want to also pick your provider from here. In as much as you specify the provider, it's not core critical here. What is critical comes on your configuration of your peer, which is your SIP tracking provider, say Trilo or Zadama or Telnix, Livo, talking to MediaSFU effectively. So one, make sure your contact number is absolutely right. Then the next side is your peer. This is the uh, ultimate, absolute and ultimate thing you need to get right. And it's pretty much not that hard, but could easily be misconfigured. So your host, your port, and your transport, and then your authentication. Mostly for SIP systems, for telephony systems, um, if you try to make an outbound call, an outgoing call, MediaSFU tries to route to your tracking service, but mostly challenging. So you need a unique username and a password, which you have to configure there and then sync with MediaSFU. There's an optional backup here. Probably want to use different providers. That's still fine. Optional things like network and security, where you want to get requests from. I'm just gonna leave this as it is. And then another key part is templates and audio. So templates and audio, for the audios that get played. I mean, somebody joins welcome and hold, goodbye, and the like. If you would want to indicate, okay, there is a fixed audio URL, maybe www.my website/welcome audio. Yes, if you play that, if you want a dynamic text that gets generated as a text to speech, then you just write it in there. And so far as that, at least you have a text to speech AI credential, MediaSFU is going to pick that and then run it and play it back to the SIP caller. So we didn't know people build SIP configs with absolutely no AI agents. Think of a classic call center, which has humans attending to a call. You could do away with indicating any of this, but still, we recommend at least having a text to speech in the case that it might fall back to generating such dynamic text. So, in summary, I'm not going to touch any of the audio links as we have in here. they'll just default to MediaSFU's uh, default audios. And mostly, if you don't provide a, a link or a text here to be played back, and then MediaSFU needs it, it's going to default to one of its versions. To absolutely play nothing in that case, which you are sure you don't want any sound, you can reference the MediaSFU's silenced file, or basically just a dummy silence for this for a short time, as opposed to trying to fall back on one of its pre-configured options. So that's a critical part. And then advanced part, um, this has everything to do with extra parameters, your MCP, and things you want to optimize and focus. I'm just going to switch to the telephony guide that to provide more context for this. So the developers, if we go to the our SIP telephony engine, we open this in a new tab. If you take a look at this, if you go to an extra fields part, uh, we have all your extra things you could have in there, as in your MCP, your machine linear, Zendex, Calendly, Airtable, and the like. So every MCP you could probably configure other things related to transcripts, agents, summaries, generation, and the like. You could use this as a guide and then provide whatever needs to be run in the extra part as well as the keys that needs to be provided. So this gives you a brief on the extra fields. Now, like I mentioned, taking a look at our SIP configuration, we have um, one, our HTTP endpoint, which uh, technically just requires your API key and username as you've seen so far. You make a request, and so far as the call is running and active, you are gonna have the call detail. And if you want to control, hold, place some custom text, and every supported thing is documented here. So first you get a SIP call ID from your list request. You can just pass that SIP call ID into any of the flows, and then you are good to go. So let's go back to configuring uh, SIP trunking, and I'll demonstrate this using Trello. If you're using any other provider, it's pretty much not that hard. In here, you usually want to go to the critical setup that shows you how MediaSFU should talk to your SIP tracking number. Then for some of the popular providers, we have a guide in here uh, showing how to, let me just zoom in a bit, zoom out. So most of the providers, we have a guide in here showing how to configure the key part, as I mentioned, the peer part. But I'm still going to demonstrate with Trello here interactively to kind of provide us with a clear understanding. Okay, so let's just go to the dashboard, and sorry, I'm going to go to Trello rather. So in Trello console, the first thing, if you already have a number or you don't have a number, the first thing you probably need is a phone number. You would want to connect with media uh, SFU. So if, for instance, you go to buy a number, uh, an example, you're going by this phone number, then you'll just make sure there's a voice support, and probably SMS also will be sending the verification request to the number. So just make sure there's a voice. And if you have issues verifying by SMS, you can still reach out to MediaSFU. So assuming you're going by this number as an example, I'm going to grab this number. I'm going to head to my MediaSFU dashboard. And first thing, basic routing info. Only thing I need is my number. And I'm going to paste this here and lose the spaces. Just need to be no space. but we need a class and the other format. Okay, now I'm dealing with Trello, so it says that Trello uh, in oh, in my here configuration. So I need to get a host. How I connect to MediaSFU. Now here your host. If you've never had any SIP trunking done on Trello, if um, you go to explore products on your left tab and then search for elastic trunking, elastic SIP trunks, you have the option to create a new SIP trunk. Now, if you're on any other platform, um, you can just kindly follow the guides for the specific provider setups. It has illustrative images and core critical parts on what you need to configure or any other documentation out there. The key is to make sure the critical information, as in the things related to media SFU are captured, the endpoints media SFU operates, the SIP, and the IP for a consistent, frictionless transmission. Okay, um, so back to my Trello dashboard. I'm gonna create a new SIP trunk. I need a friendly name. I'm just gonna pick, um, say demo. So demo SFU, and I'm just gonna hit create. Okay, so um, when I do this, by default, you go through a couple of options on your left, which is your termination and origination, and the number you are adding to this SIP trunk. So one, but in general, you can just leave as it is. We don't need to do anything specific here, and you're gonna see the same thing in the docs guide. So I'm just gonna leave this as it is and just save it. There's nothing critical here for us so far. Uh, so I just save this. Now we go switch to the termination part. So you have the termination CPURI. Now this is very key. This is what goes to your the dashboard's host part. So and your task is to one, pick something unique. Here, so let's just say demo. So demo media SFU. I'm just gonna keep demo media SFU as one word. Demo media SFU. Say trunk, and when you hit enter, just click elsewhere. Trello will verify whether that name is available for usage, and this name, in addition to the dots, so copy this, go back to my dashboard, and then I'm going to paste the trunk as, sorry, the host as demo media SFU trunk dot pstn dots, and you just make sure I'm not capturing the space, .pstn.trello.com. So that's the very first key part. Now the port is 5060 unless you want to do TLS. I'm just going to leave it as UDP or UDP. And then there's a registration with PA options. So there are providers which support you registering, and then for the validity of registration period, they only communicate to that registered endpoint. MediaSFU has that support. It's just that it's a bit tricky. That renewal of your registration might get a bit uh, complicated and you don't want your course fail. So we recommend use any other way aside the registration with PA option. So I think probably you look at Telenix or so, there's something like that. You can do that here and you can manually come and renew your registration in the dashboard to ensure it's consistently running, but then we would just not advise that. So you can leave the register with P options as free. A provider ID, this is not essential. You can type something in or you can just leave it as it is. So just get this right. Now, With the peer authentication, we need to get a username and a password. Now let's just go back to our SIP tracking. Now we've done this. Uh, Trello needs to track some IP addresses communicating with this, and it needs to uh, also allow such requests from those endpoints. For this, all you need is MediaSFU's IP. If we go back to our critical setup, MediaSFU runs IP address 64, 23, 90, 190, and then 20. One for North America and then one for Europe. Uh, you just connect to specific place you are close to, but for safety concerns, you just probably want to add all options. So in our step trunking, I'm gonna create a new access list. I'm just gonna have a name, generic name for say media SFU options. Then by default, you need to add one of these topics. So let's just grab our first one, which is this, and I'm gonna paste this here. It's just a single one, so you're gonna go with the 32 option. So I'll just say primary for this name, and I'm gonna hit create ACL. So okay. So once I have my IP address, I could still add more or just add more to the existing media SFA option. So I'll just go on to view all my authentication list, uh, which is my IP ACLs. And for the same media SFA options, it has just one IP. I need to add a second IP. Or if I mention, you can just create a very new one with a friendly name. So here I'm going to add its new IP range, and I'm going to grab the second one. So then I'm gonna paste this in here, and it's going to be 32 as well. So I'm gonna say this is secondary. Just up to you to pick any name that's desirable, and I'm gonna add an IP range. Okay, so you're gonna see we have two IP ranges now in our media SFE options. So so far as we've attached these media SFE options to our IP access control list, then Trello will never have to worry about communication with media SFU. Now, credentials list. This comes down to the password and the username part we want to um, sync for P authentication. So for demo, I'm just gonna so here I'm just gonna create a new one, and I'll just say demo thread. And test name, I'm just gonna use test name one. Uh, then for password, it needs something strong. I'm gonna just repeat test name one and add capital media if you here. I'm able to copy this. So testing one capital media SFU, then I do create. Okay, so I've attached media SFU options and then media SFU double create. I'll have to make sure I have the same thing on media SFU. So I'm gonna go back to the dashboard, and I do know I'm using the name. Sorry, test name one, and let's see. So you can get a copy from there. So I just did test name one in capital media SFU. Like I mentioned, these are disposable for this illustration, and it's just safe to just demonstrate it here. So once I have my username and my password, I have concluded the critical things in terms of host and authentication to make sure always MediaSFU connects with Trello. Now we are going to go back to Trello side already again, and in here we have to save this. So we have this tool. We have to just hit the save. Now once we've saved this, we go to the origination part where it needs to support the origins. So for just a quick one, if also you go to the guide Uh, so for the setups, the Trello origination, it's basically where is your request gonna come from MediaSFU to Trello. So in here, for for the pattern is basically in the direction of SIP, and you need to use the number we are using. So we said we are using this class, this number from here, uh, the space. So but let's see how to buy it first. So this is going to be always in this format, but without the spaces, as it is on the dashboard. And here we have, like I say, if you're dealing with a specific MediaSFU endpoint, you want to indicate that, or you would want to just include all to be safe. So just to be sure and safe. So um, you just have a guide here, your number, it's going to be that pattern and then specific endpoints, SIP01 or just generic SIP. So implement it for where your request is going to come from. So I'm gonna just grab um, this and go back here and I'll paste this here. And I'm just gonna copy this because I repeat it 3 times for the SIP O2 and then just everything. So if I add this, I have one origination URI. I can add more. So I'm going to paste the same thing. This time around, it's just going to be SIP O2. You can apply different weights as you want. So okay, add this, I have a second URI, and then the last one is going to be um, just sip.mediasfu.com. So with these 3 options, it means MediaSFU negotiating with starting something on its end to Trello is going to be accepted and not have any issues. So always in the pattern of the number you intend to use on MediaSFU, the number you are buying, just that number, and then whatever endpoint you intend to be using, which we recommend just listing all, and then the default, uh, and just saving, um, just saving it. So then once you save this, you come to the very final part, which numbers are you going to add to zoom out? Which numbers are you going to add to the SIP crack? So um, assuming we bought this number from here, as you've demonstrated, you are just going to attach add the number, and then you're going to pick up that number, and then it comes to this um, SIP crack. That's that's in summary concludes your configuration on MediaSFU side and uh, Kilo side. Like I mentioned, mostly termination is key. You got to do something with termination, and then if we MediaSFU options and the demo cred done for IP ACL and then credentials lists. Origination also key, always in the format of your number in the E194 format and MediaSFU endpoints. And then finally, you attach a number to the specific trunk to finalize the setup. Now, on MediaSFU side, I am going to add one final step, which is auto agents. So if you are creating the application to just accept calls from uh, anyone as handled by a bot, you surely need to enable an agent, auto agent. It might be that you want it just for just playback, so it is a full flow auto agent of AI and handle the flow of picking up the sound and then playing the sound back. Or we can use IVR or playback. These two don't really mean anything different currently. So they just do the same task of, okay, this is this is a playback um, option that you write a text or we need to convert a text to a speech. So it's either you have playback, if you're solely handling your calls, you don't want any AI agents, and then it means you probably just need a text to speech conditional or a full AI. So also it's in two directions. If it's going to be AI again in your outbound calls, maybe you physically want to get on a call before calling a person, so you don't want an AI handling it. You just specify it in other than AI. Also, you want an AI also handling your outbound calls. You can just set it up as such. The other stuff in the AI, it's mostly related to what you're doing, the field, if mechanic, I don't know, you're in like a roofing, you want to just probably just take a picture of this and then paste it to uh, some LLM, GPT, or Claude to give you what your role system prompt should be, and then your context prompt. If you wish the agent to listen first before they speak, or they speak right away, you would want to check this and say, um, welcome to our company. Like I say, it can take the dynamic text as well. So company, how can I help you? How can I help you? Then in context prompt, you also get a context prompt if you want to response guidelines, your fallback behavior, and the personality traits are friendly, professional, and the like things. You can just add or expanding and adding more options. So you have your agent running. Now, your human intervention webbook URL is at a point in time only used if one, your agent ever needs to transfer it to a human. And now this can completely be avoided if you check it's on agent only mode. But even though you are not in agent only mode, you probably just don't have human support available. So you just check this overrides controls everything. You don't need a second, but still you can just check this to absolutely make sure it's just agent mode. If you want, if there's a human available, you can just tick this too, which means it can escalate to that endpoint. Now, well, you can fully operate without a webhook or human intervention one, which means it's going to default to your overall webhook URL. And also, if you use something like MediaSFU telephony endpoints, telephony.mediasfu.com and the like, and even a human needs to join. You don't need any webhook URL. You could have it, but then MediaSFU controls the flow of assigning of your workers, always available on shift, and then proceed to make sure a human is added to the call. So this just concludes this these two parts. And to to save this, sorry, uh, to save this, you're just gonna hit the create configuration, and then you are just gonna hit confirm from there. So like I said, I don't own that number, so I'm just gonna quickly correct some of these off the screen to render my own and then proceed from there. So proceeding with adjustment to a number I own and then hit configuration. I just need to do my confirm and I have my SIP number configured. Okay, so I can change. This is dummy post for this demo. Should it go off in some time, but this number I already own temporarily, and then I just adjusted the configuration to that. And in most cases, you need to verify the number ownership. So you can hit the verify now. If for some reason you can verify the number and there's other means of verifying for you, you can probably just reach out to support to do that. So all I need to do is to hit verify now. If I hit verify now, it opens this um, kind of edit mode, and by default, you just need to request the option for your OTP to be sent, if not already sent already. So um, your number provider should have your uh, SMS coming through to your inbox, or you just hit the recent OTP to get a new code. So I'm just going to grab my code and then submit it here. I have my code as 311 678, and if I do submit OTP, it should confirm that I've successfully verified my number. I can just exit the edit mode now, and I have probably just switch my tabs or just switch to the credentials and back here, and I can have my status as verified. Now, by default, we only created three AI credentials, so they get easily read by MediaSFU. If for some reason you have more, one critical change that you need, as indicated in the guides, is indicate which nicknames you are using, at least the nicknames as part of your um, extra uh, extra fields in your SIG configuration. So, for example, if you just take a look at the guide and then pay attention to quick hints part, it says that one, um, if for nothing at all in your extra fields, just indicate what your text to speech nickname is, your LLM nickname is, and your speech to text nickname is. And we do know the nicknames as we've created the AI credentials. Like I mentioned, one you can leave as it is. MediaSFU you always try to read, but just to be extra safe, I'm just gonna do that as a demonstration. Copy this and just an example of how you can edit your configuration also as a demo. I'm gonna scroll down to where I have the advanced parts, and in extra, I'm gonna add extra parameters. The very first one is our uh, text to speech nickname. I'm not quite sure. I remember that occurred, but I'm just gonna check for AI credentials. So we do have that as diploma text to speech. Um, it's sensitive, like I mentioned, and in here I can come in with text to speech option. So I'm gonna have that in here, and add an extra one for just to be safe. Is supposed to be speech to text, but then sorry, it's supposed to be from here, speech to text, and in my dashboard, I'm gonna have speech to text, and this is going to be from here what I've configured for speech to text. So this did so I'm gonna have this. Then the last one is going to be, let's type this out right. LLM, and this is going to be that for my OpenAI. That's 10 close. Where down. Oh, yeah. So text LLM OpenAI. I just copy it. So I'm just missing the I, so I'm gonna add that. Then I'm just save it. So let's save changes. I'll just have to confirm if I'm saving this. And then effectively I have my um, credentials listed in there. You should surely need to go to edit mode to see in that in advance you have those now. Okay, so one that concludes our insurance our configuration for our telephone SIP tracking number connecting with our media SFU and our media SFU connecting to a provider. So we'll just go ahead and just make a phone call as an illustration, and then I'll also proceed to just demonstrate one tool how to in real time fetch the calls from media SFU's endpoint, and then how to probably maybe join the call if you would want to, and the like. So now that we are done with our configuration, I'm just as a demo going to place a call to our configured number as we have in the screen. And and we can see briefly that our call is picked up. Running is trying to get this as close uh, as possible. Okay, so this concludes that we can make a call, an inbound call into a system and do completely whilst it's still running.
Like assistance with? Are you looking to schedule a call or need information about something specific? I'm having a bit of trouble understanding your message. Could you please clarify what you mean by locked and it's still running? Are you referring to call an application or something else? Let me know how I can assist you.
So I've muted the mic briefly as I would like to demonstrate a couple. So if you are dealing with more than low code, no code, and you probably want to have your flow of um, showing the events, monitoring your agents, or like a classic call center during the humor. You have all the access to the resources on the SIP call API. And for example, let's grab this, for example, as a way of listing our calls. I'm just gonna go to somewhere here and then paste that here. And need to replace my dummy API username and API key as the right one. So I'm gonna grab the correct ones and replace uh, them here. Uh, those right. So, copy this again and paste it. Paste it. Okay. So I'm just gonna grab all calls onto active, and so for us, your call is live and running. Uh, the call is live and running. When you make a request to MediaSFU, so we need to zoom in this a bit. Make a request to MediaSFU to list your call, or you're gonna have the calls displaying there. So just as a demo, no calls running now. You can just try that. So that's when you paste this here. Um, we are gonna get, if I zoom this in, there's no call running currently. Now that we are technically done with everything regarding setting up our um, system, it's worthwhile to know that everything regarding controlling of your call if you need to. For most people who are just on AI agents and the like, they probably never need to probably join a call, place on hold, and transfer, and all those things. But every single option you ever need, you have the SIP call API in terms of HTTP endpoints there to do that for you. Mostly, you just need to grab the calls if you can identify the call or by the number or uh, the SIP config you are referring to. Then you can just use the SIP call ID to send subsequent requests, and you can zoom this in a bit. So if we can get to the SIP call ID, all you need is to replace the call ID from here, and then assuming this, for example, updates the templates for whoever you are discussing or calling or is called you. So maybe the name or something that you need to be a bit more dynamic. So you also need your bearer stuff to be correct as it illustrated so far. And then you can go through this building your custom VoIP. And if mostly in the case of those who require some kind of human interaction, you probably find this much more useful. Now, regarding the other extreme, which is an outgoing call, regarding an outgoing call, this is usually a two-step process. If you take a look at the payload for outgoing call, we do realize we need the room name we are calling from. So basically, it starts off with a room name. So how do we get a room name? First, we need to create a room. So you have to first create a room, and then you pass the room name in here and the number you intend to call, as well as the number you are calling from. It should be the number you registered on MediaSFU. Yes, a config. Then the initiate name. When you created this room, you added a username, as we've seen so far. So username, maybe test name or whatever it is, it goes in here. By default, the way the flow works is that if you're just starting off with an agent, if human never gets to join, the system automatically adds whatever user you use to create the room as a default entry in there. So the person is going to be in there, and then if it's the option of you using your voice, that means uh, one step, create a room. You know how to create a MediaSFU room. You join the link in the browser, or like we've seen, simple, easiest way. In the link, you do know your meeting name, the meeting ID, you take that room name. If you want to start with your audio, you turn on your mic, maybe once, and turn it off, at least have it turned on once. Then you pass the room name here. If we are going to go with your mic, you have to indicate that we are going to start with initiator audio. This default to false, rather, sorry. So you're going to start with initiator audio of true, which is your mic. And it means you would have turned the mic on, else it's going to fail. Else you just leave it as simple and the bot uh, picks up, sorry, and the bot initiates a call. So this is the basic um, requirements needed, basic fields needed, a room name which you would have created earlier by sending a request to MediaSFU. As in here, the number you intend to call in the format of class, country code, and the like. Your caller ID number, something you have registered on MediaSFU's dashboard, and hopefully you have support, you have turned on outbound call. And then the initiator name, basically the detail you use to create the room passed in here. This is sufficient to make an agent start a call. If it's a human, then you pass in starts with initiator audio as uh, true. And that means you would have joined the meeting room first and then turn on your mic before placing the call. So this is a brief summary of the critical things you need in terms of initiating uh, an outgoing call. In addition to all what you've seen so far regarding incoming calls are mostly handled automatically if you have a webhook to control the flow. So you can always make use of MediaSFU's HTTP endpoint to in real time have an idea of what's happening with your calls uh, and control them as needed. At the extreme end and in the low code situation, if you would want to use MediaSFU's platform and kind of log in your calls and then having control in terms of joining and then monitoring, as well as having a nice UI to start your calls and the like, then you probably want to check out our telephony solution. Um, and by default, MediaSFU just charges a fraction, which is currently free, a fraction of what you would have paid for your meeting minutes. MediaSFU just bills you for real-time media transmission. You don't bill anything else. But on top of this, if you're using MediaSFU telephony solution, who have to manage your co-workers, their emailing authentication, their session, and everything dealing with running your call center. Maybe you just want it as a log to see the transcripts, your summary, and whatever that happened with your agent's calls. You particularly probably don't want to use it to handle incoming calls physically. It's still a good point to kind of check out and then maybe test and see how it goes. So to enable that, you're just gonna probably just go to the dashboard. And in our dashboard, we have our profile. In our profile, we have the option to turn on telephony support. Like check this. Um, it's going to become active. It means now I'm going to have an extra call logs part, which details all your call logs you'd you'd get so far as you have telephony support. Now, this is just not the end. So far as you have telephony support, it means you can go to telephony.mediasfu.com. So I'm going to go to telephony.mediasfu.com. So, and in here, if I go to the login side, I'm going to use my um, credentials. It's one. It's the same single sign-on credential as you have with MediaSFU.com. If you have an account there, you just log in here with the same stuff. If you sign in here or sign up here, it reflects on the MediaSFU's own site. So So just quick overview. If you go to your dashboard, you have things like as a user, I can manage sub users, which I don't have now. For example, profile has some details there. Um, the call logs, which you don't have anything yet. Detailed analytics, nothing yet. Your sub users, your workers that work under you. If you as a user want to manually handle calls and calls that come through that needs human intervention, you probably want to create a sub-user profile under your own account so that you can be assigned to a call. MediaSFU doesn't assign calls to main users. So everything to do with the analytics, system management, call assignment rules. You can just modify them as you wish and save the changes. Um, queue stats or your agent overview, their working hours, and then how calls escalate, escalation rules, and how they escalate. And we're going to discuss this. And the critical part is in your call center. So in your call center, you have an option to make outgoing calls. Like I described, outgoing calls starts from creating uh, creating a room if you want to, and then you sit in the room first, adjust a couple of things, then place a call, or you can just hit um, the new call directly, and in that case, you are leaving up it up to the bot to just make the call. So you can make a call if you are in your system and it's a real call. You probably need a critical mode for things that need urgent attention. It's gonna come through here. So I'm just gonna demonstrate this briefly. So while I'm in this, I'm gonna place a call. Now, although the bot automatically pick the call, I still have its incoming here from uh, the call I just placed. So you see there's a call from caller, the detail, and uh, trying to, I'm just trying to indicate what you have in here. As a human, I can join this call now by clicking the button. Have operations like end the call, hold the call, advanced controls like play real-time text, assuming you don't want to verbally communicate. You can just play text, transfer to someone else, um, see the real-time transcript and summary as they come through when they're generated. Then the notes, you can add manual notes to your calls from from one agent to another to kind of give them a hint of what's happened with the call. So that's that just demonstrates real time uh, call happening and uh, using MediaSFU to control the call as you need to or make an outgoing call. Uh, and it's the low level, just the log of whatever happened with your call and analyzing how it goes. So this kind of ends. I'm just gonna end the call from here as a demo. So if I end the call from here, I'm gonna leave this and say confirm, and my call has terminated the call logs, uh, the call. So that's essentially what you get within a virtual dashboard in terms of advanced call center operations with a mix of human and AI agents, or basically just a way to access your logs. Now, just for last review, if we go back to our dashboard, so we go back to our dashboard, we have our incoming call log to the room name and all the details for you in the dashboard to easily access and analyze as and when you need to. So um, thank you very much for following this guide. Initially try to make it as brief and short as possible, but still in depth and kind of show how easy it is to run your course on MediaSFU, and particularly at the cheapest rate, probably 100 times, 200 times more if you're just running, 200 times, 100 times less compared to other participants if you're just running your own handling of course. And even for AI agents, the follow-up AI agent, 25 times to 50 times less than what you could pay elsewhere, and if such is. Thank you.